if we review on page 6, the 2.3 in here, they give us the strong signal after the consultation. 66 of the 88 response prefer the option 3. And 22 of 88, that's about 25% prefer the option 2. Non-response favoring option 1. For the implementation, the kind of expect, if we go to option 1, I'm concerned whether there is the bigger the kind of dispute between the council and the community, because none of them would like to have the option 1. But regarding to the option 2, if we review, if last year we go ahead regarding to this stage 2, Wainui, probably we can save $1 million. But if we defer to another 2 years, probably I assume probably another 20%, inflation, etc. Whether there is a benefit, to the council, we need to think about it. But regarding to the option 3, 75%, go this one. Not only the consultation, but absolutely infrastructure, especially the wastewater system. Probably that's a basic and the fundamental, the council need to provide. This part of infrastructure. So it's higher the priority. So we need to face the fact. Otherwise, we don't need to have any kind of the consultation. So I prefer the option 3. Thank you.
Pauline.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a difficult decision, and this has been, just in my short time here, we've threshed this out several times at Environment Committee level and various other times. The consultation has been very robust with people, and the feedback has been good. They have had an expectation, and that's no reason for us to make a decision in their favour. But at the same time, it is a historical project that's been hovering around for many, many years, probably since the amalgamation, I believe. It's about the harbour as well, to me. I mean, the harbour there, it's a wee gem, and it provides mahinga kai, it's tourism-based and recreation, not just for those locals, but for everybody. So it's a cultural and environmental decision we have to make. It's not just about toilets, it's about grey water, as we've heard, and we did hear also through the Environment Committee that the soil type is not actually that great for absorbing water. So it is a real problem here. I actually would probably be erring on supporting, I will support option 3. People have talked about option 1, but the thing is that option 1 actually requests payment for a very small section. That's only the connection to your property. And part of that is the cost of that is only a tiny part of the total cost. The bulk of the cost is for the treatment plant, I believe, and that was the answer to a question I asked recently. And there's also no compulsion to join that. There's no compulsion, so there's a risk that people who don't take up that offer to pay for what they get will continue to use an inferior system which continues to pollute. So we won't be achieving our aim if a few people don't join up. I'm also concerned that if there were sewage smells around, why was this not reported to ECAN? And if it was, did they act on it? I'm concerned about animal waste entering the harbour as well. And so if we do go ahead and put the system in, how then can we also stop this other pollution going in so that our efforts and our money is not wasted? So I think that's something that we will look at in the Environment Committee and see if we can work on that. To put it out 3 years is also a risk because, and it's also will be perceived quite harshly by the community because it's been deferred, as Andrew said, so many times. So I'm a bit reluctant to support that. I will, of course, if option 3 fails, but at the moment I think I'll have to go for the immediate. What I would like to consider is Phil's suggestion of a targeted rate, because I think that's fair, and it would be all properties. I think we've had this before. Chartres Bay, I believe, had to pay for their systems by a targeted rate, and I think that it's really worth considering. And I think, we've pointed out the fact that everybody in Christchurch has to pay for this, which will actually benefit directly a small number of houses. notwithstanding the actual benefit to the total harbour. So anyway, I will be supporting, in this instance, option 3. Thank you.
All right. I'll just comment myself. It's these issues, as Jamie said, are not easy issues. They're always very challenging. But what Christchurch has ended up with over the amalgamation with Banks Peninsula is that we have inherited a set of issues that a city doesn't normally deal with. And there have been commitments made in the past, but they are not commitments that the city made. They're commitments that Banks Peninsula District Council made, and they were absorbed into the city for its own decision-making processes, and were confirmed, despite the fact, as others have mentioned, that they weren't reconsidered after the earthquakes had occurred, and that may be because things had gone down a particular path, but this particular element of it wasn't reviewed. A number of councils that face people moving or retiring into particular areas, and I'm not suggesting Wainui is one of these, but other councils, district councils around the country, have faced challenges from well-resourced retirees who have wonderful coastal views, for example, and have taken on their own council who have sought to address important issues like coastal erosion and coastal inundation. And some of these challenges occur simply because they are resourced to do so as against the small rating base of a small council. Wainui doesn't have that issue because it's now part of a large catchment, and more people contributing to the total cost can reduce the cost per household, but not the cost per household affected. I personally am of the view that this should have been one that was moved towards a cost-sharing arrangement right from the outset of the amalgamation with Christchurch City, because it is such a large sum of money for such a small catchment, recognising that there is a public benefit, as Pauline has identified. The public benefit is the harbour. But again, we're faced with a situation where the regulator is not the person that has to pay for fixing it up. And that's why I keep saying that we have got to, and I know Vicky's mentioned this on many occasions, about our obligations in terms of the oh, my brain's just stopped working again. Our groundwater, but ensuring that we protect our aquifers. The obligation to protect from a regulatory point of view sits with ECAN, but who pays the price if it is affected by some sort of incursion? So, and it is the city that pays the price. So you've got a separate function between the regulator and who actually ultimately pays the price. And I think that a much more joined-up approach would be sensible in that regard. We did put out the proposal that people consider paying a contribution towards joining the scheme. That was what we went and consulted on. And I don't know why anyone in this room is surprised that everyone said no, because the option was we pay a contribution towards it, or the city pays it for us completely. Nobody's had a conversation about the increased value that has had, or the potential increased value to their properties. I'm actually surprised. I'm glad, Yanni, that you looked for the value of the properties. I had no idea they were valued at that level, because that must be a substantial increase from where they were at the time that they were, originally allowed to build there. So we've ended up with an entire separation of land use planning, infrastructure costs, and then subsequently an earthquake. And I mean, I don't know why people don't see this, that it's for the problem that it is, that you cannot separate those three things. You can't. And in terms of this particular issue that we're confronted with today, in a way, it's unfortunate that the timing of this occurred in the way that it did, and as I say, it should have really been reviewed at the time. But I'm not going to support the resolution. I'm going to support the amendment to defer it for the 3 years. But in the meantime, I would really like us to be talking to this community about a targeted rate or a cost-sharing option, some sort of element of contribution that could bring it forward. So if there's a mechanism for bringing it forward, then I think that we could do that in the context of that sort of level of conversation. So that's the way I'm going to vote on it. So if we could have the screen up, and those in favour of option 3 as moved and seconded, if you could press yes, and those opposed press no. One more. Everyone? So that is lost, and so Vicky, you've you and yeah, Tim. Now, but do you want to add some words to it? Yep.
The Wainui wastewater. The council proceed with the Wainui wastewater scheme in year.
Yeah, we've just changed it to 2018.
Right. And explore in the meantime the possibility of a targeted rate.
Yeah.
Targeted rate or cost share.
Or other cost sharing arrangements. Yeah. Eh? No. Well, it's to proceed
With stage 2 wastewater.
with the stage 2. Okay. Proceed with the stage 2 and take out as planned. Yeah, and then put financial year beginning 1 July 2018 and explore in the meantime. The meantime's one word, isn't it? The possibility of a targeted rate or other cost sharing arrangement. Arrangements, yep. And do you think that in terms of that we should indicate that could bring it forward? Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
For earlier, and explore in the meantime the possibility of a target rate or other cost sharing arrangements for earlier implementation. So that way that's clear that it's to bring it forward. Yep. Okay. Do you want to speak to that? No. Yanni?
Yeah, it seems to me what we're doing is adding $2 million on budget. So can I just get the financial implications of this?
We got them beforehand. What they was to push it forward the 3 years. So the figures that Peter Gudsall read out before get pushed forward 3 years.
But with cost escalation, adjust those further.
So if we did option 1, that would be 6 million today. If we do this one, that will be 9 million in 3 years. So there's $3 million extra. Essentially, we're adding in terms of compared to option 1 compared to this option. I just want to be.
Actually, it's 2 million because we're looking at option 3, which is 7 million. So it's 7 plus 2 is 9. Peter's talking 8 million.
No, because there's a cost share component to option.
Yeah, but we had it in our budget for 2023. So, well, look, okay, well, then we won't take the vote on this until we've got the... So we'll take our adjournment now and we'll come back to this after the adjournment and we'll answer that question. All right? So we'll adjourn for morning tea and...